In the previous chapter, the main protagonist Mr. Yi Ching got transmigrated to a cultivator world where he ends up taking over a host, getting a card that can grant him an emperor position in the upper realm, but the condition requirement is to die and a suicide attempts is prohibited. Thus he deliberately seeks a chance to be killed by other and eventually ends up in a court where the Ascension sect were pressuring the emperor to hand over her great Zhou dynasty to them. When they were almost done their rebelling job clearly, the main protagonist arrives and refused to hand over the Jade Seal and challenge against them on behalf of the emperor and the great Zhou dynasty. So he, ironically, ends up deciding to sacrifice his life for the emperor and gets a clear and honorable death. Chapter 2 continues with the scenario where our main protagonist Mr. Yi Ching was standing before the emperor calling upon the Duke Mr. Kao Meng to walk over his death body first if he wants to kill the emperor. Men in Hall now begins to regards him as a virtuous person in their generation of scholars, and some even took him as their role model for the scholars, and some ends up feeling ashamed of themselves as comparing to the daring and virtuous attitude of the main protagonist Mr. Yi Ching. Not only the official in the hall but Emperor Ji Mingyue also starts to acknowledge his daring attitude without any fear of death and recall that it has been thousands of years and finally her dynasty has a loyal subject. In fact, after taking the throne she did not find a loyal subject, and so, she decides not to let him die but gets stuck in a thought on how to deal with those based her without showing her real trump card. Back to the main scenario, Duke Kao Meng continues to threatens him to kill even in the imperial court, but this ends up motivating the main protagonist Mr. Yi Ching to die, and so he kept provoking him to kill him as quickly as possible. Upon seeing his bravery and no fear of death, Duke Kao Meng is quickly taken aback and consciously begins to question himself, wanting to know the origin of Mr. Yi Ching. Seeing it to be impossible to have such kind of daring attitude, he deliberately wants to confirm, to reassure himself, and so he warns the main protagonist Mr. Yi Ching of the situation that he will kill him without anyone remembering his name if he is really true to the great Zhou dynasty. So Mr. Yi Ching loudly ascertained that he may remain nameless, but with the mountains and rivers as his witness, he proclaims to leave his mark in history. This resounded several miles away throughout the empire, reaching great scholars to teachers and disciples of the academy and residents of the empire. His voice actually able to resonate with the sage of yore among the disciple. Back in the imperial court, the official begins to appreciate his words because the school of Confucianism has been suppressed by the immortal sects for too long. It has been ages since they have last heard such virtuous words. After all, in this world, there are many ways to cultivate, though the mainstream is usually body refining or spiritual power absorption. In theory, one can cultivate through scholarly work, cultivating the mind, forging, painting, chess, music or any activity. Amidst the crowd, the immortal Mr. Heuwan Yi could not stand as he realized the power of the main protagonist Mr. Yi Ching's voice, which has reignited the scholars' chi on the group of deadbeats, while Mr. Yi Ching keeps praying to get killed as quickly as possible, but suddenly the opposite scene pops out. Duke Kao Meng refused to kill him, and this immediately shocked the main protagonist to the bottom of his heart. Duke Kao Meng laughed and states that he does not kill the real hero and kept his sword back in the scabbard, but he offers the main protagonist Mr. Yi Ching to work for him in his kingdom as the highest position official, for the decline of great Zhou dynasty seems to be irreversible in their eyes. Emperor Ji Mingyue remained helpless and could only watch the Duke, poaching her people right under her nose. Apparently she also realized that she does have anything to offer as the situation of the empire is declining, and could only pray quietly for the main protagonist not to betray her empire. On the main scenario, the main protagonist Mr. Yi Ching got disappointed on the outcome, which he did not expect to happen, and immediately sprout out blood. So in order to die, he once again provoked Duke Kao Meng by responding that he would rather die than betray the great Zhou dynasty. Duke then questioned him whether an emperor's cowardly and incompetent puppet be better than himself. The main protagonist Mr. Yi Ching cupped his hand towards the Emperor Ji Mingyue and responds that he was born poor and could only enter the court because of the grace of the emperor, and as a debt of gratitude he ensures to pay back at the cost of his life. Emperor Mingyue immediately got impressed by his words and wonders that she had never heard of his name, and suddenly today he's willing to die for her. As a result, Duke Kao Meng has to back down from the matter to save his face, but on the other hand the main protagonist Mr. Yi Ching ends up getting disappointment on the fact that his plan of getting killed did not succeed. Shortly after, Immortal Heuwan Yi steps forward and threatened the main protagonist to kill, but this actually motivates the main protagonist to seek a plan to die. The man ordered the main protagonist to hand over the Jade Seal as quickly as possible, otherwise he warns to leave the main protagonist without an intact corpse. Following this, he strikes the face of the main protagonist Mr. Yi Ching with his Taoist brush and leaves a clean bloody cut on it. One of the official already admits that the main protagonist Mr. Yi Ching would fall in the hands of the immortal Heuwan Yi. Emperor Ji Mingyue immediately stands out to stop the scenario. While on the main scenario, Mr. Yi Ching gets more excited to die and receive his reward in the upper realm, and so he walks towards the immortal Heuwan Yi. Looking directly in his eyes, Mr. Yi Ching reminds him that the immortal sect are heartless. They treat the mortal lives as nothing but grass to step on. If the immortal don't die, the entire continent will perish. He also refers the immortal sect as the plague of this world. The other official gets their vision clear upon hearing his words. Immortal Heuwan Yi got rage, and by collecting a blue energy on his hand, he charged it towards the main protagonist Mr. Yi Ching. Mr. Yi Ching gets excited as he stand on the verge of death, and as the immortal Heuwan Yi gets near to hit him, the chapter 2 suddenly ends. Thank you for watching.